the cloud. Okay, you need to click, please. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the great experiment. So it is August the 6th, 2023, and we are in person and on Zoom for the first time ever, because the last time we did something online, we were just recording and we weren't live streaming. And I looked back and guess who was the speaker the very last time we were together before we went into COVID shutdown? Yeah, I was the speaker. I was the last speaker. Wow. And I threw out the talk I was going to give, and I gave a talk called Pandemic Fears Meet My Prayers. And today we're going to talk about will, which is our spiritual faculty for the month. But first, let us just kind of get centered and into a space and just remind ourselves why Unity Halton Peel bothers to rent some space today and come together, and we all drove. And many of you are online and some of you are in a different time zone. And so we just remind ourselves of our mission to lovingly inspire transformation and be of service to the world. Let's just take a moment to breathe in that thought, to allow the week that was to just be in the past, to allow the week that is coming to be in the future, and just to give ourselves permission to be fully present in this now moment, in this gathering, in this space, whether we are at home, in a coffee shop, or here at Sheridan College. And just breathing into that, we give thanks that we have the capacity to come together, that the restrictions have been lifted enough that we are able to come together in person, that the technology is still with us, that we haven't abandoned that we are finding and negotiating and navigating a whole new dynamic of hybrid service, hybrid gatherings. And for this time together, for this opportunity to be together, we are so grateful. And so it is. Amen. And I will now call on Margaret to the word.
Thank you, Wendy. The daily word for Sunday, August the 6th, 2023 is faith. No matter my need, I begin with faith. In the story of Unity, James Dillett Freeman tells a story from the Unity movement's early days. During a period of financial insufficiency, staff gathered together to pray. An associate said, "Let us pray that money holds out." Co-founder Myrtle Fillmore countered, "Oh no, let's pray that our faith holds out." Today, I remember the importance of faith in all my endeavors. Like everyone, I need all kinds of things during my lifetime: more money, more time, greater harmony, to name a few. Rather than pray for specific things or results, praying for the understanding and clarity to draw upon my faith is the best place to begin. I believe in the absolute goodness of God, and I believe in myself as a spiritual being endowed with the gift of faith to direct however I choose. All things can be done for the one who believes. Mark 9, verse 9-23.
Thank you, Margaret. And a reminder, if you haven't already read it, our beloved Reverend Mary Wood is the featured author for the month of August at Daily Word. It's in your booklet if you have the hard copy, or you can go to www.unity.org, and it's one of the highlighted features this month. So I invite you to go and see what she's been up to. All right. Some of you may recall that I was at convention last month. Was it just last month? And I picked up some new music. So I brought two of the songs. We've heard them once before, but I like them so much that I'm giving them an encore this week. So let's start with Eddie Watkins Jr. and "This Door is Open to You."
No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble or pain you're going through, know that you are not alone and someone cares for you. As an individualization of divine point of view, this door is open to you. This door is open. This door right here, this door is open to you. Open for you. This door is open to you. This door is open. I'm talking about this door. This door is open. I said this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white or gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
So I'm going to change things a little bit this week. One of the spiritual practices that I added to my life, I often will do a reboot in July when we hit the second half of the year. And I decided that I would call it a new year and I would make some changes in my life. And one of the changes is that I am using the monthly affirmations that Unity sends out. So I'll just invite you to get back into that space we were in earlier. Just take a breath. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the affirmation and then pause, and then I'll invite you to join me in speaking it together. Our affirmation for August 2023 for inner peace. With God as my peace, I rest deeply and breathe easily. And together. With God as my peace, I rest deeply and breathe easily. Just allow that to rest in your heart. Our affirmation for guidance. I am guided by infinite wisdom in all matters. And together. I am guided by infinite wisdom in all matters. And our affirmation for life. I am one with and now fully flourish in divine life. And together. I am one with and now fully flourish in divine life. And our affirmation for strength. Through wind and storm, I stand steady, knowing God is my strength. And together, through wind and storm, I stand steady, knowing God is my strength. And finally, for harmony, I am willing to be a presence of divine love in all my relationships. And together, I am willing to be a presence of divine love in all my relationships. And so it is. Amen. Our second song this morning by Jan Garrett.
This is what I know, that we are all connected, the universe reflected in each shining part. And everywhere I go, I recognize the faces, all of my relations in this one heart. So I receive all I can be. This is what I know. We are all connected.
Oops. Sorry, folks. Let me stop this for a moment and start the song again. And that's okay, because we are learning, we are growing, and we are being in a new space.
This is what I know, that we are all connected, the universe reflected in each shining part. And everywhere I go, I recognize the faces, all of my relations in this one heart. So I receive all I can be. This is what I know. We are all connected. The universe reflected in each shining part. Everywhere I go, I recognize the faces, in this one heart. All I need is already looking through these eyes, nearer than my breathing, closer than hands and feet. We are dreaming together all the gifts of heaven and earth. And so I receive all I can be. Now I let it go with such appreciation, with sheer exhilaration. Now I set it free. So it is, so be it. When I sing it, I can see it. I welcome us in, and now we begin.
Right. So my talk title for today, because you have to have a title apparently, I'm willing to change me to we. And I got thinking about what does this look like being in a hybrid community? What does this look like when we aren't limited by four walls? What does this look like when we create a space that is in person and online? And what is that going to look like going forward? And my answer is, I'm not really sure. And my other answer is, I like to think it's like this graphic, that each of us will come as an individual and be bound together in a positive way. I don't want you to get scared off, but that we will each bring our own gifts, talents, and treasures to this ministry and find ways of exploring spirituality together, of being there for each other, and of learning together. So if you've been with us this year, you know that I'm doing a series based on the 12 powers, which was written by our co-founder. And I add the footnote again that our other co-founder, his wife Myrtle, wasn't too keen on this. And so if it's not working for you, that's fine. You can still stay, you can still be part of this. We're not going to throw you out because they didn't even agree on this. I have found it useful for myself because I have found it like breaking into a huge wheel of cheese. If you get one of those 400-pound wheels of cheese, you can't eat it all in one sitting. You need to break it down into smaller pieces. And so this is what the 12 powers is like, is finding ways to break down spirituality into more manageable spaces, slices, especially when I have found for myself, and I will only speak for myself, when I'm in a troubled time, when I'm in a time of challenge, when I'm in a time of distress, I find being able to just pick out one or two of the powers rather than trying to put all 12 together. Very useful, very helpful. So our power for this month, and if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, if you go to our website and you go to resources and the 12 powers, the booklet that I'm using, I printed it out years ago and had someone bind it for me. So I have a paper copy. You can download this for free and discover your own God-given potential. So the month of August is associated with the faculty of will. And I'm going to give you some explanation about what will looks like, what it isn't in a moment. But just to let you know, last month, July, the power was understanding. And the two are in our foreheads. That's where we sort of visualize them happening. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Because if I don't understand something when I was in school, I would crinkle up my face. You know, the lines would show up in my brow because I wasn't understanding. And when I, as a child, would get obstinate, I know that's hard for some of you to believe who know me, and thank you for the laugh. That too I'd get that brow. And then when I learned about the 12 powers, I went, oh, well, that kind of makes some sense there. So there we are. So let's go back just and segue from last month and understanding, because these two do work in balance with each other. So understanding on its own may do nothing. I can understand how to run a computer, but until I open it, turn it on, it doesn't do anything, right? You have to have that understanding. Will, on the other hand, can go forcefully ahead and do the wrong thing. Oh yeah, I've been there, done that. You know, I'm all excited about something. I jump in with both feet. And as soon as I hit the whatever I'm doing, it's like, oh, that wasn't, to quote one of my favorite YouTubers, bad life choice. Yeah. Thankfully, haven't made a lot of big ones, but there were some poor ones. Yeah, we won't go there. But if we get understanding and will working together, the two faculties accomplish much. And that's because will determines the movement and understanding decrees the direction. And I know that might sound backwards, but once you've gotten your understanding that, okay, for me, it's one of my tires is kind of off. So I understand I probably should take it to the dealership this week and just get it looked at before it blows or I get a leak or whatever. So will is that part of me that will take the action, that part of me that will respond to the understanding. So let's explore will a little bit more and how that can bring from me to we. So in this booklet, and this is back from 2010. So some of the languaging, we've done a lot of languaging changing in Unity in the last, I'd say 10 years. Very much aware of pronouns are important. Very much aware of patriarchy in our languaging can be hurtful and harmful. Very aware of if we want to call ourselves an inclusive group, our language needs to be inclusive. It's all well and good to say, oh, we're inclusive, we welcome everybody, and then have language that feels uncomfortable. So with that little underpinning, willingness is the first step. So in each of the powers, they provide us 10 steps, and I've said, or 7 steps. I don't know where I got 10 from, 7 steps. And as I've said before, it's not a linear thing. It might be a spiral. I haven't quite decided. For me, it's a cha-cha, and I know I've said this before, but 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, whatever it works for you. The idea is, though, first and foremost, be gentle with yourself. Don't blame, shame, or judge yourself. This is an experience that you're having. This is what life is about. So the first step, or the first level, or whatever we're going to call it, it talks about willfulness. And that's where our human idea says my way or the highway. And I remember, and I was thinking about it when we came to explore this room and see if it would work for us. And I suddenly had this reminder of a high school teacher I had who was very much, it's my way or the highway. You don't follow what I tell you to do, then you're not going to pass my class. Well, I had trouble with that particular subject, so I struggled with the teacher. But that's, that idea that I know right, that ego knows right, that whatever we have been taught socially in our family and our church of origin, as we were educated about what is, we can get really willful. I bumped against that a couple of days ago with a friend. And we have some differences of opinion. We love each other dearly, but we kind of have that yin yang thing happening where we don't agree on a few things. And I just stepped back because I could see that she wasn't going to budge. And that's her right. And for us individually, sometimes that causes us problems. So our first step is to be willing to say, perhaps, I'm not sure. I don't know what my next best step is. For us here at Unity Halton Peel, I'm not sure what our next best step is. I'm not sure if we will be here the next time we get together or if we will have found something that's a little less academic. And I'm learning to not say my way or the highway, that it has to look a certain way, but rather to step back and say, I'm willing for this to unfold. I'm willing to bring my skill set to the table and help whatever way I can. So this is our conscious step of letting go of the past. This is our conscious step to say, you know what? You might have been taught this, and I was taught it too, but it no longer works for me. And putting ourselves in a space where our spiritual guidance is our core. That rather than ignoring it or trying to shout it out, drown it out, that we are willing to be more attentive, more attuned, and to see what in our life needs to be changed so that we are in alignment with it. Now, I haven't done this before in this series, but for this one, I actually found I needed to group some of these together because the difference between them is so small, it's more simple to explain them as a group. So the next 3 are resolution, training, and obedience. And this describes a greater awareness, a growing awareness of listening to that still small voice, that willingness. So we've created our willingness for saying, okay, I'm willing. And then we get into a space where we build on that. So for a personal example, when we first got kind of awareness of Zoom, and this is pre-COVID, so I'm talking the fall of 2018, I had a thought that I would really like to be able to teach people across Canada, not limited to whoever could drive to wherever I was teaching. And so my resolution was, I'm willing to learn this software. I'm willing to spend money to upgrade my system so that it will function with this software. And then the training began as learning how to use the software. And there were times I wanted to give up. Like today, when I clicked something and the music stopped and I had to figure out how to get it to start again. Because I chose that was my willfulness, that I really wanted you to hear that song. So see, I'm still learning. I'm not a fait accompli yet. If I were perfect, I would be a ball of light and perfect energy and you wouldn't see me. So there we are. And then obedience. So while I was doing the human training, I was also doing spiritual training around how to teach online, how to connect with people who I might not be able to see because they didn't have a video camera, or I might not be able to hear clearly because they were in a coffee shop and they couldn't speak very loudly. So there was a spiritual aspect to that training for me as well, not just the physical. And then obedience was, there were times I wanted to toss it in garbage and say, this isn't for me, this isn't, but when I'd get still, that little voice would come back and say, you love to teach. You have a message to give. You have a purpose to fulfill in this life. Are you going to do it? Are you willing? And that became my mantra for a long time. I am willing. That was just a simple phrase. I am willing. I am willing to deal with stuff I hadn't expected before, stuff I'd never even dreamed of. I mean, I thought I had a good imagination, but compared to what stuff looks like, it's not what I expected. So those are the next 3 steps. Developing the faculty of will in a spiritual way must be done in a relaxed, willing, expectant frame of mind. If you find there's a tendency to become tense and try to force this faculty, stop and take stock. Re-educate the executive power of your mind to unfold your divine potential in all areas of life and living. Growing up in my church of origin, and I don't specify my church of origin because I appreciate the blessings I got from it. And it wasn't a good fit for me, so I left as a teenager. What I was taught as a child was that spiritual work had to be hard, had to be done a specific way, or it wouldn't work. What I've learned is that spirituality affects all aspects of my life. And I think I give a lot of credit to my Jewish friends and to my training in the Hebrew scriptures, because one says, I live a kosher life, or I'm practicing, the Torah. And what I read and how I interpret those rules, those laws of the Hebrew scriptures, particularly the Torah, is that in all things put God first. In all things put your spirituality first. In all things put that which is greater than your human self first. And I do mean all things. Because when you look at, for example, the dietary rules of being kosher, a lot of them, if you just took them out and stripped away any spiritual or religious language, most of them are actually just really good public health suggestions about not eating food that could make you very sick, about preserving things, about being mindful as you go through life. Let's face it, if you're not mindful on the highway, things can happen that are not particularly pleasant. And I remember when somebody said to me, well, don't you pray while you're driving? I said, of course not. I have to have my eyes open. And she said, no, you can be in that space. Take a moment before you start the engine and just breathe into that consciousness. And I will tell you, there are times when I will change lanes or I will adjust my speed and I don't know why I do it. And then someone cuts me off or would have cut me off or might have hit me because I'm in that mindset of I'm going to live my spiritual life in all things while I'm pumping gas. Yeah, I can complain about the price, or I can give thanks that A, there is gas, because I remember days when there wasn't, that I have the income that I can afford to pay the price that is being asked, and that I actually have really reliant transportation. It's wonderful to be able to say, I'm just going to go for a little drive, see what the horses are doing up the street, and have that expression. So it's about being willing to open yourself to that. Now, does it feel comfortable? Sometimes not. Sometimes it can be very difficult. And I think the author of this has really come to the best explanation I have read. Fifth step, they call it government. I might choose a different word there, but let's mean it in the sense of governing ourselves, not of someone else governing over us. In human consciousness, through the exercise of human will, you can and do fail, no matter how forceful you are. We have seen this. We see this in public. We see this with celebrities. We see this with people who put themselves out there. And I mean that not to blame shame, but just to say, here's an example of what I understand the author to mean. That, the whole thing about hubris going before a fall, Shakespeare was great with describing that in his plays. In divine consciousness, under God's spirit, oneness, whatever name you call it, I remember someone who used to refer to the spiritual as grandmother because that had great meaning for her. When you are under divine direction, you become invincible. Now, I do not mean go and stand in front of a moving train. What I mean is that things that seem impossible become possible. If you had told me when I was 16 and I had just failed my driver's test, and so I was going to be the only kid that didn't have a driver's license in my class, that I would eventually not only get my driver's license, but I would get it in a way that my instructor actually took a couple days and taught me extra stuff, I would have laughed. I would have said, yeah, right, not happening. And yet, because by the time I did get my license a bit later, I had done some spiritual work around this. I had let go of, I have to be like all the other teenagers and have a car. I can deal with the seeming embarrassment that my dad's going to be picking me up. There were things about that provided spiritual lessons for me, such that when I did finally get my driver's license, I was ready for it. I was in a space where it was a spiritual experience. It was almost like a communion or a confirmation for me. It was like I was moving into another level of understanding in my life. And the last two fit nicely together. Surrender, or we can call it release. When I first came into Unity, don't say the S word, which was meant to be surrender. I invite you to, if you choose, substitute the word release. So this is the point where we join Jesus in the Gospels in the Garden of Gethsemane and say, not my will, but thine be done. And that can be a hard one to say. That can be a hard one to acknowledge. I'm a high introvert. Some of you may not believe that, but I am a high introvert. Doing stuff like this, seeing myself on Facebook or YouTube, still freaks me out a little bit. Not nearly as much as when I started, but there's still a part of me that it feels uncomfortable. And that's okay, because I've learned to surrender and say, this is what I was here to do. This is what my purpose in life is to share messages, to teach people, to mentor people. And this is the way that it's done right now. And so I allow my human self to kind of go have a little pity party about feeling uncomfortable. And the rest of me comes through and says, okay, What's mine to do in this moment? And the final statement is unity. And that's where you don't have to think about, am I willing? That's where it just comes so naturally that it is a part of you and it is like greater than yourself. Have I reached stage 7? I might have for a couple seconds, but I'm not there yet. And I know I'm not there yet. And I know that there are things that I need to do that I am still working on back in levels 2, 3, and 4. And that's okay. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn. And that's what I love about the Unity movement. And with that thought, I'm just going to invite you to get comfortable. This, if you didn't know, is the new labyrinth at Unity Village. I walked it, I think, 4 times while I was at convention. So, but I chose this picture because I thought this is kind of what willingness and being willing feels like to me. I'm willing to, it takes me when I'm walking at my usual labyrinth pace. I seem to have a pace for labyrinths. It takes me 17 minutes to go in and 17 minutes to come out. And you're walking and you're circling. And if you haven't looked at the picture up from above, you may not know where your next step is, but you just trust the path that it's leading you to the middle and then back out. And that to me is what will is about, is being willing, being open, being receptive to something that might not feel comfortable, but is for your highest and best good. So with that, I just invite you to come into a space of peace, of understanding. Paraphrasing one of my favorite poems. I was fearing the future and regretting the past. And suddenly I was aware of my spiritual self. And that self said, when you think about the past, it is difficult. For my name is not I was, and neither is yours. And when you worry about the future, life can be difficult because your name is not I will be. But at the core of your being, your name is I am in this now moment. And I invite you to be willing to just allow your mind to be in this now moment. Close your eyes if you wish, or look at the screen if you wish. I am willing for you to do whatever is comfortable for you to be in this space. And in this space, we allow ourselves to reflect. To reflect on areas of our life where we might be more stubborn, where there might be a family tradition of behaving in a certain way or responding in a certain way that perhaps doesn't work anymore for us. Or perhaps it's something we were taught as we were educated in school. And I ask you the question, are you willing to let go? Are you willing to step out of your human self just for these few moments to explore what is possible? What is possible? Everything is possible. Our block is that we may not be willing to see it as possible. It may seem like too much, or there may be a recording from your childhood saying you're not smart enough, you're too lazy, you're not good enough. Are you willing to let those recordings go Are you willing to say, I am open to my next best step? I may not know all the details, but I feel confident that wherever I am right now is my next best step. And the next best step after that will be revealed to me. Knowing that we are part of a divine mind. Race consciousness, we are part of an eternal and universal hive that produces so many thoughts, so many ideas, so many dreams that we can't even begin to understand. And to know that a lot of what we've talked about today is like being at a buffet, saying yes to what suits us. Perhaps taking a small taste of something we're not sure about yet, but we'd like to be curious and see if maybe that's our next best step. Perhaps we'll have an urge, if we're not at our home right now, to drive home in a way that we don't normally drive. See something new, perhaps something that inspires us or calls us to our next best step. And we know this is possible not only for ourselves, but for everyone in our lives, and indeed everyone in this world. We hold this in love and light for every person, that your next best step is there. It is a function that you need to be willing. That if your hands are clenched together, holding on to the past, you cannot open them to receive the future. And we close this time with an affirmation. I use my power of will to choose, to commit, and to be willing. And let's just say that quietly within ourselves. It's on the screen. I use my power of will to choose, to commit, and to be willing. And for these next best steps that will appear before us this week and every day, we are so grateful. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. And as I said at the beginning of the talk, the booklet that I've based this on is available at our website, and please feel free to go and take a look and dive a little deeper. As always, we are so blessed that you choose to share of your treasure, your tithes, your spiritual gifts with us. On the screen is a number of ways that you can do so, and we thank you in advance, and we bless and appreciate you for your financial gifts. If you are watching this on YouTube and you haven't joined us before, please know that you can join our newsletter, not only to get the Zoom link going forward, but also to find out what's happening. There's quite a few things coming down the pipe, and it's exciting. This Thursday, Debbie Long, our other LUT, continues her series on love, healing, and abundance, which is done in conjunction with Unity York Region. And you can email her at debbielong1111 at yahoo.com, and she will give you the full information that's presented on a love offering basis. And Debbie will join Unity Halton Peel next week on Zoom only, and her talk title is Abracadabra, Magical or Miracle. I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say about that. The following Sunday, Reverend Barbara shows up, and this will also be on Zoom only, and she will be speaking about power versus force. And our final Sunday speaker will be Reverend Mary. Again, it will be on Zoom only, and her talk title is Patience and a Plan. More details on each of those talks is available in the newsletter and on our website. Our gifts are shared with Eden Food for Change and Unity Canada. We are a tithing ministry. praywithdiane@gmail.com. Our head chaplain is on the call today and is willing to pray with you. For those of you on Zoom, we can make a breakout room available. Or for those of you in the room, I am happy to pray with anyone. I am also a licensed prayer chaplain. And you can send your prayer requests to praywithdiane@gmail.com for prayer. And it will be sent to Unity headquarters for an additional 30 days of prayer after we hold it for 30 days. Speaking of prayer, the foundation of the Unity movement, Heart of Healing, Unity World Day of Prayer is coming up September 13th, 14th. More details will be coming shortly. I just downloaded all the materials last night. So watch our website and future announcements for what's going to be happening with that. It is a free event. They just ask that you register so they have an idea of how big of a Zoom room that they need to provide. And as we come to a close, let us take a moment to bless our children, those who are present on the call, those who are enjoying this long weekend, and those all around the world. We open our hearts, we open our minds, and we just breathe into knowing that they too have all the spiritual faculties as the adults. And we can assist them in expressing those in wonderful and unbelievable ways. I never cease to be amazed by the wisdom of children. And let us join together, children and youth of Unity and of the world. We love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. And as we bring our gathering to a close, we join together in James Freeman's famous poem, Prayer, whatever you're going to call it. And together, the light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. And last but not least, we'll ask Sue Riley to pray us out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We
Thank you all for joining us today. Hope to see you again soon. Peace and blessings.